So today we are going to start with the chapter D and F block elements. But before I start the chapter, let me walk you through our how to access the revision notes and the test in our website. If you go to play6.com and click on practice, you have different packages available here. Since we are discussing about NEET, let us go to NEET Premium, and at the top you have revision notes, and if you click on revision notes, it opens in a new tab where you will have the precise notes of the chapter, and you have for all the subjects, that is physics, chemistry, biology. So students, let us start the chapter D and F block elements. When we say about our D block elements, the D block elements are those in which the last electron will enter the D subshell of your shell. It will enter the D subshell of your shell. So when we say D block elements, what are all the group it will belong? So when we say D block elements, we consider in your periodic table group 3 to group 12, we consider it as a D block elements, and of course it is going to be present in the middle of your S and P block elements. So when we say middle of S and P block elements, that is why it is given a name, that is called as your transition elements. We are calling the D block elements as the transition elements. So when we say a transition element is actually defined as an element which has incompletely filled d orbitals in its ground state, or we can say any one of its oxidation state. So when we say about our transition element, since it is being present in between your S and P block elements, a name it is given as your transition elements. And if we consider, for example, zinc, cadmium and mercury of your group 12 will have full D10 configuration in their ground state as well as in their common oxidation state, and hence these are not regarded as your transition metal. It is an exception. It is an exception. And when we are talking about the electronic configuration, the general electronic configuration of your D block element is N-1, D1 to 10, NS 1 to 2. So this is our general electronic configuration of your D block elements. And when we are saying the three series of your transition metals, that is the D block elements or D orbital of your D block elements in 4 periods are filled, right? And the 3 series of your transition metals are 3D series from your cadmium to zinc, 4D series and 5D series. So we are have, and the fourth is your 6D series, which is beginning. So when we say about your 4 series, the 3D series, it starts from your SC2 ZN. 4D series, it is belonging from Y to your CD, and 5D, it is from LA to HG, and your sixth one, 6D series, is from SC, but still it is incomplete till which. So this is the, we can say this is the location or this is the description of the D block elements in the periodic table. And it is very important to know that, and when we are studying about the block element, there is always a comparison between the atomic radii, ionization, enthalpy. That is what we call it as a properties. We are calling it as a properties, and we have to compare those properties of the D block elements with any other block. So when we say properties, what are all the properties we should consider? So immediately first thing which comes in our mind is our atomic radii. And if we are saying about atomic radii of your 3D series will decrease as the atomic number is increasing. The atomic radii of 3D series will decrease as the atomic number increases. And of course, when we are talking about the ionization enthalpy, we all know what is ionization enthalpy, and the transition elements will have small size. The transition element has small size, and that will result in high ionization enthalpy. Since because of its small size, it is resulting in high ionization enthalpy. And they will have a less electropositivity compared to S block elements. If we try to compare D block elements with S block elements, they are they are exhibiting less electropositivity than your S block elements because of their ionization potential is lying between S and P block elements. The ionization potential is between S and P. And of course, D block elements has the tendency of forming covalent compounds. The D block elements will also exhibit an increase in potential, increase in ionization potential from your left to right because of the screening effect of your new electrons which is being added into your N-1 D subshell. And the first ionization series will actually exhibit an increase in second ionization energy as the atomic number is increasing and due to their stable electronic configuration. So when we say about ionization energy, of course we should know that ionization energy decreases down the group and ionization energy increases across the period. Ionization energy will decrease down the group and it will increase across the period. And when we are talking about the oxidation state, the number allotted to an element in a compound representing the number of electrons it is losing or gaining by an atom of the element, that is what we are going to call it as an oxidation state. And transition elements has the tendency of exhibiting various varying oxidation state because of the minor energy difference between ns and n-1 d orbital. They are having minor energy difference between ns and n-1 d orbital. So along with your ns electrons, n-1 d electrons will take part in the bonding, but because of the availability of few electrons for bonding, scandium is an exception that it will not show variable oxidation state. Exception is scandium does not show variable oxidation state, and because of the presence of more d electron, zinc has less orbital available for bonding and hence that also does not exhibit varying oxidation state. So when we say about the D block elements, among the D block elements, the elements which is belonging to 8th group, the elements which is belonging to 8th group will exhibit maximum oxidation state. It is very important. And among the element of the 3D series, manganese is belonging to 7th group and that is exhibiting maximum oxidation state. And if we go to 4D series, ruthenium belonging to 8th group will exhibit maximum oxidation state. So it is important to know which element is exhibiting maximum oxidation state or which element is having variable oxidation state or which element does not exhibit the variable oxidation state. Please do focus on it. It's very, very important. And oxidation number, it's a well-known fact for different elements. We are having different oxidation number. Oxidation number of oxygen, we are taking it to be -2. Oxidation number of elements like magnesium, calcium, barium, it's taken to be +2. And oxidation state of your hydrogen, it is +1. Oxidation state of O3. So it's all a calculation. And when we start talking about the magnetic properties, what are all the magnetic properties it is being exhibited? So when we say about the magnetic properties, substance is going to depend on their behavior. It is totally dependent on the substance, on their and their behavior in an external magnetic field. How the substance are going to behave in an external magnetic field, based on that the magnetic property of it is decided. So when we say a first type, that is called as paramagnetic, that means immediately we should understand that they are weakly attracted on the application of magnetic field because of the presence of one or more unpaired electrons, which will actually get attracted towards the magnetic field. And when we say application, or why do we need a magnetic field, application of magnetic field is it magnetizes the paramagnetic substance in the same direction but lose their magnetism in the absence of the magnetic field. So that is very important. And diamagnetic means they are weakly repelled by a magnetic field because of the absence of unpaired electrons. So it's also important part of the chapter that in the exams they question, they will give you options and we have to choose whether it is a paramagnetic in nature or diamagnetic in nature, and which is highly it will exhibit paramagnetic. So paramagnetic and diamagnetic, if you do an electronic configuration of the given option, whichever has unpaired electrons, you can say that they will be paramagnetic, and if because of absence of unpaired electrons, we say that it is diamagnetic. And pair, so it's very important to remember. And the magnetic movement of the element we are calculating with the help of a formula. The magnetic movement you will calculate with the help of a formula as mu is equal to root of n into n plus 2. So we are using a formula to calculate the magnetic movement, n root of n into n plus 2. And a very important question is being asked, formation of the colored ions. Why there is a formation of colored ions? So we should understand that when an electron from a lower energy d orbital, it is getting excited to higher energy d orbital, the energy of excitation will actually correspond to the frequency of your light which is being observed, and that frequency will generally lie in the visible region. And this is because the color of the transition metal is because of the presence of unpaired, or we could say incomplete d orbitals. The presence of the color on the transition metal is present because of the presence of unpaired or incomplete d orbital and the absorption of the visible light. And hence you could say that the colored nature of the transition metal of the cation is because of the promotion of one or more unpaired electrons, or we could say unpaired d electrons from a lower level to an higher level, but it should be within the same d subshell. And of course the promotion process or the promotion is going to require small amount of energy, and that is being available in the visible light. So when we say any element given from your transition element, they will have either entirely empty or entirely filled 3d orbital. That means they do not have any unpaired electrons, hence it will appear colorless. If they have unpaired electrons or partially filled d orbital, then they will exhibit color. It is an important fact to know. And next we have to study about the formation of compounds. How d block elements are helpful in forming the formation of the compounds. So basically we say that the cations of your transition metal will have great tendency to form complexes, and with several molecules we call that as ligands, and the bonds which is being involved in the formation of complex are nothing but coordinate, and the complex we are calling it as coordinate complexes. So the bond which is being helped in the formation of your complex, we call it as coordinate bond, and hence the complex, the name they have given is called as coordinate complexes. And the structure of these complex ion is basically it can be linear, square, planar, tetrahedral, octahedral. These all totally depend upon the nature of hybridization of those particular ions. They can be highly electronegative and basic ligands like fluorine, chlorine, and they could form a complex with the transition metals, even though there are in high oxidation state because of the presence of your small, highly charged, or we could also say even neutral ligands with lone pair of electrons, and that would be helpful in the formation of sigma bond by donating a lone pair electrons. So transition elements are helpful in the formation of complex compounds, or we can say coordinate compounds. And it is also helpful in the formation of interstitial compounds. So when we say interstitial compounds, transition elements, if it is combining with small atoms like your carbon, hydrogen, and that is helpful in leading to the formation of your interstitial compounds. And basically are that are non-stoichiometric in composition. And the interstitial compounds which is being formed, actually it will be chemically inert with by having higher melting point compared to other pure metals. It will have very high melting point compared to the other metals. And these compounds are basically hard and tough, and it will help, or it keeps metallic conductivity. It keeps metallic conductivity. And also the D block elements are helpful in the formation of your alloy. We all know that alloys are homogeneous mixture of more than one metal that can displace another metal from the crystal lattice because of their comparable size, and that will lead to the formation of an alloy. So the alloys being formed are basically hard, and they will have high melting point like chromium, vanadium, tungsten, manganese. They are all actually alloy of iron. And very famous, we all know brass, bronze, stainless steel. These are all the alloy of copper, and zinc is brass, alloy of copper, and tin it is bronze. So these are the ones which we are always using it. So it is helpful in the formation of your alloy. And there are certain important points which we should have it in mind from D block elements before I move to F blocks. So the atomic radii of your transition metals that are going to be smaller than those of your S block elements, but of course they will be larger than your P block elements in a period. And the first ionization enthalpy of transition elements are higher than those of your S block elements, but again it will be lower than the P block elements. And except your zinc, cadmium, and mercury, all other transition elements will generally have high melting and boiling point. And most of the transition metals and their compound, they have catalytic properties. They have catalytic properties, and the transition metals will have similar radii and other characteristics. That is why these metals can mutually substitute their position in their crystal lattice, and they have the tendency of forming an alloy. And potassium dichromate, we all know, for example, we can consider that it is a very powerful oxidizing agent. And next one, we move on to our F block elements, that is the inner transition elements. The inner transition elements. When we say inner transition elements, or the other name is your F block elements. So when we say they are categorized by filling of your, they are categorized by filling of your F orbitals. The elements will gradually fill the F orbitals. So, and they are called as your F block elements. The elements with gradually filled F orbitals, we are calling it as F block element, and the element of your 4F series of your inner transition elements are your lanthanoids, and 5F series are actinoids. That is your actinoids and your lanthanides, and the other inside we can say the name as your inner transition elements. And when we talk about the basic electronic configuration, for example, if I consider the electronic configuration of lanthanides, it is Ze4F N plus 1 5D0 6S2, or you can also say it has to be equal to Ze4F 5D1 6S4Fn as power 5D1 6S2, and they have the tendency of exhibiting an oxidation state of +3, +2, and your +4. The initial member of the series are basically, to some extent, they are reactive towards calcium, which will resemble the behavior to that of aluminium, but with the gradual increasing atomic number. And if we try to apply little heat or gentle heat on lanthanides, they will have the tendency of combining with hydrogen. And of course, if we try to heat lanthanoids with carbon, they will lead to the formation of carbides and halides. But there should be some presence of halogen while burning. And reaction of lanthanides with your dilute acids, it will have the tendency of releasing hydrogen. It has the tendency of releasing hydrogen. And of course, they will form basic alkaline earth metal oxides and hydroxides. Lanthanides have the tendency of forming oxides and hydroxides. But the most important concept of your F block elements, or the question which is being asked most of the time, is lanthanoid contraction. Why we have lanthanoid contraction? So as we try to move along the lanthanoid series, the atomic number gradually increases by 1, or we can say that the number of electrons and protons are increasing. But addition of electrons, if it is being added to the same shell, will actually increase the nuclear charge. If the atomic number or the electrons are being added to the same shell, there will be increase in the effective nuclear charge, and increase in atomic number will also increase the number of electrons in your 4F orbital, which is having a very poor shielding effect because of the effective nuclear charge. And since then, the size of your lanthanoid will steadily decrease with the increase in atomic number. The size of your lanthanoid is decreasing with the increase in atomic number, and that is that phenomena or that process we are calling it as lanthanoid contraction. So we could say that lanthanoid contraction means there is a similarity in your property of your second and third transition series, as there is a decrease in atomic number. Size of your lanthanoid steadily decrease with the increase in atomic number, and that is what we call it as your lanthanoid contraction. The most important question which is being frequently asked from F block. And when we say, or when we talk about the oxidation state of your lanthanoid, the element, if it is belonging to lanthanoid series, they will exhibit an oxidation state of +3. And some elements, yes, of course, they have the tendency of exhibiting +2 oxidation state in their complex. And some elements exhibit +4 oxidation state because of the high stability of empty, or we could say half or fully filled F subshell. So they are exhibiting the oxidation state of +3, +2 and +4. And when we are talking about the actinoids, actinoids is also one of your F block elements or elements from your, so TH to LR, it is belonging to the series of your actinoids. And in total, if we say, there are actually 14 elements. And yes, of course, they are very radioactive in nature. The elements are radioactive element, and they will have long half-life, whereas we can say the latter elements will have a half-life value which will be ranging from 1 day to 3 minutes from the with atomic number 103. And actinoids have electronic configuration of thorium. First we can say to be equal to Rn 5F7 7s2, 5F7 7s2. So the ionic radii will gradually decrease. The ionic radii gradually decreases across the series because of the poor screening effect of your nuclear charge, which is exerted by the F electrons. And that term we call it as your actinoid contraction. The term we use is called as actinoid contraction. So when we talk about the oxidation state, in general, oxidation of the actinoids is +3, but they are also having the tendency of exhibiting +4 oxidation state. And some of the element will even exhibit higher oxidation state. So when we say oxidation state is in the starting, it will initially it will rise to the middle of the series, and then it will decrease going further, or we can say the succeeding elements. And yes, we are having the applications or the applications of your D and F block elements. There are many. Iron and steel we are using for making your tools or vehicles or utensils, bridges. Zinc and your nickel or cadmium, it is used for battery industry. Vanadium pentaoxide, that is your V2O5, we are using as a catalyst in the oxidation of sulfur dioxide in the manufacture of your sulfuric acid. So there are many application of your D and F block elements. Iron we are using as a catalyst in your Haber process for the production of ammonia. Nickel, which is useful in polymerization of alkynes and other organic compounds like the benzene. So when we talk about each element, there are certain application for it. And that is what we have about our D and F block elements. And the important part or the important concept, you can say, some of your points, that is, some of the trivalent ions of your lanthanoids are colored because of the absorption in visible region of your spectrum, which is resulting in FF transition, and they have partially filled orbitals. And when you try to move from your lanthanum to lithium, a gradual decrease in the size of your lanthanoid is observed, and that is what you call it as your lanthanoid contraction. And yes, of course, the element from your actinium, that is atomic number 89, till lawrencium, that is your atomic number 103, they are all called as your actinoids. And actinoid contraction, the same, the atomic and ionic size will decrease with increase in atomic number. And of course, actinoids are colored and arises because of the electronic transition between your various energy states within the 5 subshell. So these are all certain important points from the chapter D and F block elements. After analyzing that, let us try taking a test from this chapter. And if here you are having different subjects and each subject will have a chapter wise test. So if we click on chemistry, we get the chapter wise test. And here each bubble represents a test. If it is green in color, it indicates that the test is already completed. Blue in color, the test is yet to be taken. Yellow, it is in progress. And R is a random test if we need any additional practice from the same chapter. And if the color is green, it doesn't mean that you cannot take the test again. A test can be taken n number of times unless and until you feel confident on that particular chapter. Let us try answering questions from D and F block elements. Which of the following transition element are used in the preparation of ammonia by Haber's process? Just now we discussed about the application. So it is of course the Haber's process is the industrial implementation of the reaction of your nitrogen gas and hydrogen gas to produce ammonia, and iron is actually used to increase the rate of reaction and to lower the temperature at which the reaction will take place. So iron is the catalyst. Let us save that and go to next. Which of the following regarding the catalytic properties of transition metals are correct? We have to talk about the correct statement. So when we say transition metal ions can change their oxidation state, yes, of course. They are good catalysts because of lower valencies, due to which they sometimes form an unstable intermediary and hence a new path with lower activation energy. Is correct. Transition metal catalysts are always heterogeneous catalysts where the catalyst and reactants are in different phase. It is not possible because there are certain homogeneous catalysts are also present. So our third option is wrong. In some cases, transition metals provide a suitable surface for adsorption, which weakens the bond between reactant. It is correct. So we can say 1, 2, and 4 are correct. 1, 2, and 4. That means option B is correct. Let us save that and go to next. Calculate the expected magnetic moment of a salt where manganese is in the +2 state. As I told you, let us solve it out. The formula to calculate the magnetic moment is your root of n into n plus 2. So manganese is in manganese 2, they have said. That means if you do the electronic configuration, you will get it as Ar3d5. That means this is having 5 unpaired electrons and it has 5 unpaired electrons. So we can substitute in place of your 5 root of 5 into 5 plus. So it becomes root of 5 into 7, which if you solve it out, 35 root of 35 will get it around 5.29. So the option should be 5.29. Option A. Let us save that and go to next. Which of the following ions has maximum magnetic moment? So magnetic moment, which is having the maximum number of unpaired electrons, that will have the maximum magnetic moment. So of course from the given option we could say that manganese will have the maximum unpaired electrons, hence that will have the maximum magnetic moment. So let us save that and go to next. Arrange in order of increasing ionic radii. We have to arrange in increasing ionic radii. So, you know, the ionic size will decrease from La plus to your Lu 3 plus, that is nothing but your lanthanide contraction. So, ionic radii will decrease in the order of your Y3 plus, DM3 plus, and your CeLa3 plus. So, it is important to know the order, and if you look at your series, it's very simple to find out also. Let us save that and go to next. For the given element and their atomic number, which of the fall have the highest second ionization enthalpy? When we are talking about your second ionization enthalpy, second ionization potential are larger than their neighboring element. So when we say that, it will be chromium, because for the second ionization potential, the electron should be removed from very stable configuration, and chromium is the one which will have a stable configuration, electronic configuration. Hence, option B should be the right answer. Let us save that and go to next. In lanthanides, the differentiating electrons enters into, it's a well-known fact that the differentiating electrons for lanthanide will of course enter into your F subshell. So let us save that and go to next. What happens when a solution of potassium chromate is treated with dilute nitric acid? It is potassium chromate when it is treated with dilute nitric acid. So do remember, dilute nitric acid will convert your chromate to dichromate and water. Dichromate and water. So when we write the reaction, it is as your K2Cr O4 plus your HNO3 will give you K2Cr2O7 plus your 2KNO3 plus H2O, which you can say that in ionic form 2Cr O4 minus will give you Cr2O7 2 minus plus your H2O. Hence, option Cr2O7 2 minus plus your H2O is formed. So option B should be right. Let us save that and go to next. Match the following groups with the respect of the electronic configuration. It is very simple. If you look at the electronic configuration, in the transition metals, the 5d orbitals are being filled in, and the elements in general will have the electronic configuration as we can say as your n minus 1 d 1 to the power of 10 ns2. So group 6 elements will have basically the electronic configuration of n minus 1 t5 ns1. So based on the given elements, we can do the electronic configuration and choose the option. And here the option A will be the right one. So let us save that and go to next. The electronic configuration of chromium in its ground state. We have to do the electronic configuration of chromium in ground state is, because chromium is an exception, it will follow in your Upper principle that if there are 4 electrons and 9 electrons in your d orbital, it will move 1 electron from the s orbital to fill the extra space. So when we do the electronic configuration for chromium, it is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s1 and 3d5. So you can simplify this by saying argon 3d5 4s1, because there is an extra stability it will gain from your half filled d orbitals. So the answer should be 3d5 4s1. 3d5 4s1, option B. Let us save that and go to next. the radius is 1.06, which of the following given values will be closest to the Lu3 plus? Atomic number of Lu is 71. So how do we calculate as the ionic radii of your know Ln will reduce from La to Lu because of your lanthanide contraction. Hence, lowest value should be the one that is close to your Lu3 plus. And among the given option, we could say that the lowest value is 0.85. Hence, this should be the answer. Let us save that and go to next. The atomic number of your manganese, iron and cobalt, they have given the order of magnetic moment. For each one, we need to just calculate the magnetic moment and we could say the answer. So when we try to calculate the magnetic moment, it is very simple to find out based on your unpaired electrons. So if I say Mn2 plus to your Mn2 plus or CO2 plus and Fe2 plus, they will have Mn maximum 5 unpaired electrons, your CO 3 unpaired electrons and iron 0 unpaired electron, that is your Fe2 plus. So it would become very simple for us to arrange that it will be Mn maximum unpaired electrons, then 2 unpaired electrons and 0. So this order should be the correct one. Let us save that and go to next. Which of the following ions is expected to be colorless? As we discussed, we are talking about the color. So the electronic configuration for each element they have given, if we try to find out, if they have no unpaired electrons, then they will be colorless. And of course, we could say that your Pi4 plus is 3D 0 electronic configuration. Hence, this is not having any unpaired electrons. Thus, you can say that that is colorless. Hence, your option Pi4 plus will be the answer. Do an electronic configuration and check how many unpaired electrons it has. If they have unpaired electrons, that means it will be colored. And if they do not have unpaired electrons, it will be colorless. Let us save that and go to next. What is this spin only magnetic moment value of your CrCO6? It is just a simple calculation of your formula again. If I try to do CrCO6, that means the electronic configuration here it is going to be as your argon 3d5 4s1. So we have to accommodate 6 ligands, and the fact that CO is going to be a strong ligand, you can say that hybridization is D2sp3. That means we could conclude that the given compound or the complex CrCO6 will not have any unpaired electrons. That means if they do not have unpaired electrons, then their spin moment will also be 0. So let us save, answer should be 0. Let us save that and go to next. What is the spin only magnetic moment value in Bohr's magnetron unit for K2CO SCN4? This is also of the same format. We could say that we have to calculate the value. So cobalt we have to calculate, saying the given value is CO SCN4 2 minus. So here your CO is going to be, if you try to calculate the oxidation state, you can say that it is present in CO2 plus form, and we could say that it will involve sp3 hybridization and it will have 3 unpaired electrons. It has 3 unpaired electrons, hence you could substitute in your formula as your n into n plus 2. So 3 root of 3 into 5. That means 15. You will get it around 3.87. So the option should be 3.873. Answer us save that. So we have completed all the 15 questions. Let us end the test and see how many questions we have done right and how many are wrong. So all the questions are correct here, but if suppose we are gone wrong anywhere, the color of the question will be red in color, and if you have not attempted any question, it will be indicated orange in color. But here the best part is, if we are gone wrong here anywhere, if you click on the question, it will give you the answer with an explanation of that particular question. It would be helpful for us to know the answer as well as the explanation. Hence, do practice taking test and practice more and more question, especially previous year papers, which would be very helpful for you to score a very good marks. Do revise all the chapters and keep practicing tests, which will fetch you a better result. That is all we have for today. But in case if you have any doubts or you have not understood any part, you can reach out to us with the help of Ask feature available here, or you can also post your questions with Telegram chat application. But in case if you need support from us from for any chapter or specific any subject, you can reach out to Play 6 Management for one-to-one tutoring, and you can get in touch with the tutor of your respective subject where you are stuck. Thank you, students. We'll catch you up again on Monday.